Is cutting out carbohydrates and your greens really the answer to better health, or is this just another extreme fad? The carnivore diet has many passionate believers, but let's have a look and see if it's doing more harm than good. So recently I joined some carnivore diet groups and I joined some calorie deficit groups and other weight loss groups. Just out of interest, I wanted to understand more about fad diets. I want to understand the psychology around why people actually choose to do these diets, and not from reading a book or using ChatGPT or looking and Googling. I wanted to see how real people in the world, why they were choosing to do things like carnivore diet. Now, for those that have been following me for a long time, you will see that I am a passionate lover of barbecued meat. I eat a lot of carpaccio. I have red meat at least once a day. I pretty much love food from all sources. So I'm not somebody who's against eating meat. I'm not a vegan. I am a passionate believer of not eliminating any food groups. But this isn't about me really. I just wanted to understand why people are making these choices. So the last week or so I've been engaging some of these groups and I've been asking people, you know, I've just been honest and explained, look, I'm a certified nutritionist. Could you explain to me? You know, what some of the groups you have people that's just starting and they're looking for advice. You know, they obviously have read some benefits about it and they want to see if it works. So I've just said to them, look, I'm a nutritionist and I want to understand why you're deciding to restrict yourself so much. You know, what's led to this decision where you feel you need to do a carnivore diet. So some of the replies are, I don't think they fully know. Some of them are, they've tried everything and they just want to try something different. And a lot of them are a lot more extreme and passionate, where basically everything is full of toxins, the world's trying to poison us, and that you need to be careful in eating anything basically that's grown in the ground or buying anything in the supermarkets. So I do believe that there is some truth in some of these things. However, eliminating whole food groups definitely isn't the answer. So based on that mindset, if you go to the extreme end is probably the one that's probably more interesting. So based on that mindset of the extreme end, that everything is full of chemicals, then our water goes through a lot of chemicals. A lot of the meats in certain countries are bleached or they go through a chlorine process. The meat and fish are contaminated throughout the water they're drinking, the foods they're eating, even like the grass they're eating. Whatever the animals are eating has quite often got chemicals in it. It has hormones sometimes. You can apply that same mindset to the meat industry as you can to plants and a lot of the other natural produce or supermarket foods. So based on that, you would be able to eat almost nothing. That becomes a little bit silly. And then you've got to look at as well packaging. You've got to look at how things are cooked. So packaging's full of, depending on what it is, can be full of harmful chemicals. Where it's been transported, you know, there's all these bacteria and different things in warehouses, in places things are getting prepared. And that is something you're never really going to ever avoid. Yeah, I think that becomes a little bit, I don't think you can use that as a valid excuse unless you were just going to never eat anything again, which wouldn't be a smart idea. Then there was the next thing about the, I suppose you could sort of call them demonized superfoods and anti-nutrient type foods. There is some science to back this up. There is some foods out there which, if you eat along other other foods, can stop them working effectively and equally can help them digest better and be better for you. So there is a very small amount of food. So I did notice a discussion about nuts. In this discussion it was saying nuts destroy protein and they're very bad for you. And many people are allergic to nuts. It's the first I've heard. I know a lot of bodybuilders who eat nuts all day, who have peanut butter, for example. Even I've seen people drinking almond butter. I'm not saying you should do that, but these people are big, strong athletes and they don't look like they're lacking protein. But yeah, it's something I will research because I wasn't aware of that, and I'll look into that further. I'm not saying it's true or not, but it's a strange reason to eliminate whole food groups. And yeah, if you're allergic to peanuts, don't eat them. I mean, that's the same as anything. So that was one of the other interesting things I come across. And this is what I noticed in the fasting groups as well, was that people seem to get so passionate about some of these ideas that it's almost like they form a cult. And then each person starts attacking people for non-compliance or non-adherence. So, you know, you've got people who are trying to eat meat all day, who are not nutritionists and probably don't have a lot of nutritional knowledge, and they're following advice off other people who have probably just researched it online who are not nutritionists. I'm not saying that none of them are. It can be a bit like the blind leading the blind, and a lot of passionate individuals and a lot stronger ones, normally in like a cult type environment, the stronger ones will be listened to regardless of their knowledge, expertise, qualifications. So I'm not saying they're all cult-like, but I did notice that. So it's if you've not been adhering to meat only, maybe you had carbs one day because you were feeling a bit lightheaded, then you know, quite often people are sort of jumping on the bandwagon and attack people to say, no, you really should be eating meat only. It's strange. I personally want to have freedom in life. The bit that interests me the most, so if you have all these tools at your disposal, and I mean in foods, and you want to lose fat, you want to be higher performance, you want to be healthy, you want to live longer, each food group you eliminate, you have now handicapped yourself and made it difficult to achieve your goals. Maybe you do decide that sometimes you want to adjust things. What I would expect people would do is they would look at what their current state is, you know, and if, for example, you have a lot of inflammation or you have a lot of like pre-diabetes conditions or things, maybe eliminating carbohydrates isn't the worst thing to do. Or, you know, but not full time. You just want to be backing off them and then reintroducing higher fiber carbohydrates, which are obviously lower glycemic index. Something like that is what I'd expect people to do, rather than just completely eliminating carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are a very good source of energy. They're your primary energy source. I think that would be a smarter thing to do. The other things I looked at as well, if you are only eating really meat where there's going to be some sort of nutrient deficiency. As I've always kind of focused on a balanced diet from all food groups. Last year me and my son actually done some research about all fad diets, but you know, I try not to focus too much on things that I don't want to implement, but sometimes I think it's important to understand them. I was looking at where's the nutrient deficiencies coming from. You're probably going to struggle getting healthy fats, you know, especially omega-3. You're going to be lacking lots of micronutrients. So if you're not eating any greens or carbohydrates, where you're getting your micronutrients from? Just going through the advice I'm seeing from people on there. So you would get a lot of your micronutrients from organs and raw meat, and there is a lot of micronutrients in these things. I'm not saying they're totally, you know, there is actually, they're really good for you. The problem I see is if you don't have someone who is a nutritionist or somebody who has real knowledge, then you're not going to be eating these things. So when I did look through it, what most people are advising each other to eat, they are not advising people to eat things like fish or to get omega-3s, or advising people to eat bone marrow, for example. There's a lot of good nutrients in that, or liver, kidneys, your organ type meats. If you're just solely eating beef all day or whatever meat you choose, you're going to be massively lacking in nutrients. Another thing as well, for gut balance, balancing blood sugar levels, okay, you've eliminated carbohydrates, so you're probably not going to have any blood sugar spikes. Fibre has a lot of other benefits for digestion and other things. It seems really strange for me why you'd put yourself in that position. So the next thing I see when I look through is the restriction part of it. So to me, like I said, freedom in life. You want freedom of choice, you want financial freedom, location freedom, freedom to eat whatever you want, whenever you want, within reason. So now, the next thing I see the trend in the groups and when I'm speaking to people is, okay, I managed this 2 days and then I've had a hiccup and now I ate some carbs, or I had some alcohol, or I drank coffee. I didn't realise coffee wasn't allowed in carnivore diet. So I'm always learning. So I like drinking coffee. I like alcohol occasionally, not very often, but I do like it. I love carbohydrates. I also use carbohydrates, especially high glycemic index carbohydrates, which are massively demonized to fuel my workout. You know, if I want to eat cheesecake one day, I'll eat cheesecake. But in these diets, so you see people that last in 2 or 3 days, or they managed to do 60 days and then they had a big hiccup, and people are sort of saying, you know, you shouldn't be eating these things. And why put this restriction in your life? Why not just say, you know, I'm going to try eating a little bit more meat just now and a little bit less sugary carbs? You don't have to put yourself into that label as I'm a carnivore, I'm doing the carnivore diet. So I've had a handful of clients who were full on carnivore diet and they lost a little bit of weight, and They eliminated sore heads and things like that. There was something else, I can't remember. But yeah, there wasn't really massive improvements from it. Every one of them now is back on a balanced diet, although they have lessened the amount of sugary carbs they eat. So yeah, there is some benefits. But I think for me, as a sort of roll up of this, is you don't want to be cutting any food groups out, and you want to be looking at what your current situation is and then adapting to that. So if you're doing it if you're eliminating it, you might have performance issues, you might struggle with fat loss, you might have gut issues, but these are all things that you can continue to adjust. Yeah, so just to summarise for me, I think for an individual, they want to look at what is their current issues. A good example that'll finish this off a little bit, so one of the other issues was someone with hormonal issues or believed hormonal issues. So first port of call is to jump to a carnivore diet because they wanted to lose weight and they felt that was the best way when they're having hormone issues. Yeah, for me, step back and think, why am I doing these fad diets? Go and see a nutritionist. Go and get your blood work done from, you can send away a blood sample, get a 42 marker blood panel test looking at everything like inflammation, looking at diabetes, looking at all your hormones. Look at you as an individual and assess where you are, your whole makeup of your body. People doing carnivore diet because they need to eliminate inflammation, they need to balance hormones, they need to do all these things. They possibly don't even know if they've got issues with inflammation or issues with hormones. Go away, get your blood work done, have a look at how your body is, look at your diet, make sure you are doing everything right, making sure you are tracking right, making sure you are in a calorie deficit if you're trying to lose weight. If you're having migraines, maybe make sure you're adequately hydrated, make sure you're not stressed, make sure you're sleeping properly. I would look at all of these things before I even considered eliminating any food groups. And I wouldn't eliminate food groups even after that. I would just make sure I adjust to suit myself. Life doesn't need any more restrictions than what it already has. You don't want to tie your hands behind your back and make things even harder by handicapping yourself and removing useful tools from your diet. And if you want to really optimize your diet, as I said, go away and get tests done, get your blood work done, go and see specialists and see what your current status is. You will get so much good advice from that, and you'll know exactly what is wrong with you, and you can work from there. In most cases, there's probably nothing wrong with you. You probably just need to adjust some of your macros rather than eliminating foods. I'll continue to try and learn why people get involved in these things. Sometimes humans, I think, need some sort of form of restriction or punishment, or to feel like they're part of some group where people are quite passionate, almost cult-like. I'll continue eating all food groups, and hopefully you do the same. Thanks for watching, and I hope that was helpful for you.